Okay, we're on lesson 16 on the demonstrative and reflexive pronouns. So the demonstrative and reflexive. Now, demonstrative and reflexive are two different kinds. That probably ought to be, rather than demonstrative, period, reflexive, probably ought to be have the word and in there most likely, okay? What he's got in the book, he just got a period there. All right, but they're separate, they're different pronouns, okay? Alethos, the os ending here is an adverb of manner. It's equivalent to our ly ending adverbs in English. Alethos, theo. So theo is of God. Huios, ein hutos. All right, now this is from Amy, of course. We've already had that. And truly, this was being the Son of God, okay? And the word should be in italics, okay? And this was being this one, all right? Hutos, notice it's a rough breathing. This is our demonstrative pronoun, okay? We'll get to reflexive a little bit later in this lesson. This is Matthew 27:54. Now, they're just like English demonstrative, except they're a little more exact in that our English demonstratives are this and that. This is the near object and that is the far object. If I'm saying, and I'm in a room, I say this chair, like I was the teacher, I'm going to be looking at a chair up close to me. That chair would be maybe back in the back of the room. So this and that. And so it points to a definite object. Prophetes, a prophet, okay? Specifies a definite thing, a prophet, but does not distinguish it from all other prophets, just any old prophet. Hutos, ho, prophetes, and this is this prophet, or ekainos, ho, prophetes, is that prophet. So this one is the near one, and that is the distant one. Now, the distance and the nearness may be not just necessarily in distance, but it's whenever it's talking about it in the context, the word this refers to the nearest one in the context, right? And the word that refers to a distant one in the context. Does that make sense? See the difference? Just like it would in place, distance or position, location. Hutos usually, notice for upgrading, hutos usually refers to an object near at hand. Ekainos, there should be a smooth breathing on that. I'll put it down there for right now. Corrected it. Kainos, one more remote. So it should be one more remote. All right? Any question? Now, they do have gender and case. That's where they differ from English. All right? Now, I would call your attention to Ephesians 2, verses 8 through 10. And it says, for by grace have you been saved through faith, and this not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. So the word this normally would be hutos, but the translators translated the remote object, ekainos, is this. The reason they did is because it has gender, and ekainos has gender, just like this. Ekainos is the distant object, and so some of the modern speech translations are not honest in their translation. They have an axe to grind there. So, I mean, go through that quickly if I might right now. It is ekainos, it is that, It is that, not of yourselves. I'm sorry. It's hutos, it's not ekinos. That, not of yourselves. It's hutos, not ekinos. And so you'd say, well, this. And in English, since we don't have gender, if you translate it as this, for by grace have you been saved through faith, then it would be faith is the gift of God. And that's Baptist doctrine. Is that clear? That's their false doctrine. Okay? Now, if you have my book on the Holy Spirit, you can go through the scripture references and find where I discuss those verses. And I quote A.T. Robertson, a renowned Greek scholar that's a Baptist, where he admits that does not refer to faith being the gift of God. Does that make sense? So what you want to do is quote one of their own people, okay, which I've done in my book. My book's on the Holy Spirit. It's in volume 1, I believe. So in this, not of yourselves. And that's how it's translated by the NIV and another translation or two, okay? But it's not a good translation, even though it is the near object, hutos, because grace and faith are feminine nouns. Most abstract nouns like faith, love, grace are feminine nouns. And the word this, that normally is translated this, is tuto, and that is neuter. So it has to agree in gender, number, and case with what it refers to. Is that clear? So it can't refer to either grace or faith as being the gift of God. And A.T. Robertson argues from the context that it's salvation. I think he's probably right. What's Paul saying? For by grace have you been saved through faith, and that salvation, not of yourselves. It is the gift of God. That's how I interpret it. Does that make sense? So be aware of that. Now you can, if you have my Holy Spirit book, volume 1, I think I sent it to both of you. Volumes 1 and 2, probably both. All you got to do is just search through Ephesians 2:8 through 10. And you'll find where I discuss it and quote A.T. Robertson. Any question? But that's a big sugar stick I call it a sugar stick passage for Baptist. Okay?
So is it common for the demonstrative to point back to a participle like that?
It can refer to a participle, but normally it's a noun.
Yeah.
But participle can function like a noun. But he's arguing that it might even be the elliptical word salvation, which is neuter. All right. That's what Robertson's arguing. Remember, he wrote about a 2,000-page grammar book. Okay, it's highly quoted and it's considered one of the classics. All right. I'm looking at my copy of it, and it's a grammar of Greek New Testament, a lot of historical research. I think he died around 1925 or somewhere thereabouts. Right, but I'm just saying, one of their own argues that it's salvation, which makes perfectly good sense. Salvation is a gift that we have. It's not an unconditional gift, but it's a gift. Any questions? So, but they teach that faith is a gift and you're given faith. I don't believe we're given faith. I think faith is something we have to come up with on our own by studying and considering the evidence, evaluating the evidence properly, and drawing the proper conclusions from the evidence in the scriptures. That's what I believe faith is. Faith is based upon evidence in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 1 and 2. All right, any questions? So let's go back a moment now.
So quick question, if you don't mind.
No.
So you're making the point, if I understand correctly, that grace and faith are both feminine. So because it's tuta, which is neuter, it shouldn't be pointing back to either of those nouns. So it's probably pointing to salvation.
Salvation, the noun salvation, it might, in the context earlier, I think the word soterion is in the context earlier, I think.
You mean before Ephesians 2:8?
Yes.
I see. So you think it's pointing before Ephesians 2:8. You don't think it's pointing to, because in verse 8 it says, by grace you have been saved. So you don't think it's pointing to that saving there, the
No.
participle. That's why I always bring up participle.
I think it could point to a participle, because a participle with an article can function as a noun, a substantive, can function that way. But I think it probably refers to the noun salvation.
I see.
Which is part of the context of the second chapter of Ephesians, the first 6 or 7, 8 verses, right? And that was A.T. Robertson's opinion. And he's going against Baptist doctrine, okay? But he just couldn't take the stress of all of the people who would have attacked him for being dishonest. I think he had enough honesty about him or at least he was afraid of being attacked by people who would have challenged his scholarship. Does that make sense? Sometimes these fellows want to be considered a scholar so much that they'll even go against what they believe. Okay, they'll let, but sometimes they don't. Okay, but anyhow, but right there, you got a Baptist, one of their authorities, that says faith is not the gift of God according to that verse. That's their proof text passage. Okay, any questions?
Let's see now. So that word would go back to a neuter.
Yeah, it's neuter.
Yeah, let's go back to a neuter.
It could be
noun, participle, or something.
Salvation. Salvation is a neuter word. And
Okay.
it could even be elliptical, not even mentioned, but it's discussed in the context. Even the word "save" there implies salvation.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking about in reference to the save.
I take it to be elliptical based on the word "saved" being in context and salvation being discussed in the prior verses. Okay. All right.
Does it matter that the saved is a masculine participle?
Yeah.
Well, it would. It wouldn't be referring to a masculine participle. That's for certain. Okay. So, just a minute. Someone rang my doorbell. I'm gonna hold on.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm like you. I was kind of.
Well, I was trying to.
You're trying to find something neuter.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah. I'm not seeing it though. That's fine.
Let's see here. Being saved is a perfect middle passive participle. It's masculine.
Okay. Yeah. In that case, it wouldn't be referring to that participle. The participle is masculine because the people being talked to are masculine. Okay. So it would refer to probably the elliptical, the neuter word for faith, for salvation. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. All right.
So it wouldn't refer to that. And I think it's a plural participle, which this would have to be a plural pronoun. So let's go back. Let's go further into it right here. So we can have this, that would hutos singular, or the forms hutos, tuto, tutu, tutu, tuto, 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 tuton. You have nominative, genitive, ablative, dative, instrumental, locative, and then accusative. There's no vocative form. Okay. And now with the feminine gender, hate, rough breathing, tate, tates, genitive ablative, tate with an iota subscript, and tate, and there's an iota subscript on the Mac over here, and this is masculine, feminine, neuter, always in that order, and tatain, accusative, and then neuter, which would be your third column. It's always in that order, masculine, feminine, neuter. Two. Notice the genitive ablative for neuter is the same as masculine. So that can be a little confusing if you're not careful, okay? Two-toe, and the dative instrumental locative, neuter and masculine are the same. Now, here's something you keep running into, and it's pretty well universal. The nominative singular neuter and the accusative singular neuter are the same. Okay, you'll find it also when you get to the plural. Instead of this, it's these, and the nominative plural neuter and the nominative plural accusative plural neuter are the same. Okay, and again, your genitive ablative for all three are the same. So those are all the same. And your dative instrumental locative, masculine and neuter are the same. Of course, your accusatives are different, okay? Any questions? All right. Now, we have this, and then we have that, ekinos, and we have them down here, ekinos, and ekinu, genitive ablative, ekino, with the iota subscript, is dative instrumental locative, and then ekinon, and that's your accusative. Okay. Now, of course, that's masculine. Second column is feminine, ekine, and ekinase, genitive ablative, kine, dative instrumental locative, ekinane. Notice you have a new on the end of a lot of your accusatives, and not all of them, but a lot of them do. And so that's accusative, feminine, singular. Ekino, and then ekino accusative and nominative are the same. Ekinu, and that's the same as genitive ablative masculine. And ekino in ekino, it's the same as dative instrumental locative masculine. So the neuter and masculine genitive ablative are the same, and dative instrumental locative are the same in the masculine and neuter. So you can't tell the difference between them with the pronouns. Okay. Now, your genitive plural for all three genders is the same. Genitive ablative plural. Right? That's pretty well universal. You'll have that same thing with your article. These are really adjectival pronouns is what they are. Right? Ekinois, and three times for dative instrumental locative, ekinus, and the new ending that'll fit with your article. That ending will fit with your article. Ekini, feminine, and then the genitive ablative are the same. Ekinis, we have an ice instead of an ois, and your ekinis, ekinos, that'd be accusative. And your dative instrumental locative for masculine the same as the dative instrumental locative of neuter. And then, of course, your nominative plural neuter and then accusative plural neuter are the same. Okay? All right. Now, I'll get the number of times these are in here. I got a file that I sent to you. Hopefully, you got it. Here are the old demonstratives, and I put a table. They only found 11 times, and altogether these are in the New Testament. So when you think about it, you've got you got 8 forms, and you got not masculine, feminine, and neuter, 8, and then 8 more. That's 8 times 3. You got in the masculine, you got nominative, you got plural and singular. There's a lot more of 8 possibilities. So a bunch of them, the forms are not even found in the New Testament. Is that clear? And there you find in the Revelation 2, 1, 8, and 12, that's 3 of your passages right there where they're found. That's 3 out of 11. And these things he says. But it goes back to an old, it uses an old Greek relative pronouns, not relative, demonstrative pronouns. Okay. So those are old forms, and you find them there. And I think these 2 words are together all 3 times in those 3 passages. Might be a lot of these are found in Revelation. I think some more passages in Revelation where they're found. All right. Any questions? All right. I'm going to get out of this, and we're going to go back. And I'm going to get into information for students. You can see it. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here's the table that I made out. And so you have these all in a table form. Nominative, genitive, ablative, dative, instrumental, locative, and accusative. I had to abbreviate instrumental, couldn't wrap my table around on this. So other words, I could get them in there, okay? All right, so you can figure out accusative and instrumental, what they are. This is your forms of them, all the forms. And then you have masculine, feminine, neuter, plural, and nominative, ablative in all your cases. And then masculine, feminine, neuter. You have them in a table. You can print this table out if you wanted to, and then just have it available. And it's found 1,387 times. That's a bunch. That means it's probably kind of important to kind of learn them. Does that make sense? Because they're there a bunch of times. Your remote, this is the near demonstrative. It's pronominal adjective. It's really an adjective that functions like as a pronoun. And so it has all the same endings of adjectives. If you look at these endings, you can see if you just put a tau on them, here, to, toe, tone, you'll have your article. Put a tau on them, just those endings. Same thing with these others over here. The nominatives is the ones that are different, okay? Nominative forms. Here are the older demonstratives, only found 12 times. I think I found 12 times. It's probably a manuscript variation of manuscript is the difference. He had 11 and I had 12. And so these are all your forms of it, all of them. So you have plural, masculine, and feminine and neuter, and singular, and then plural, masculine, feminine, neuter, all those forms, okay? So there it is. If you happen to get into the Septuagint or some other reading somewhere, you'd at least have all the forms for them if you ran into them. Is that clear? They're there for you if you need them. If you ever need them, you have them. All right. Any question about this? About these? All right. And these become important because now let me point out, and I'll go back. I'm going to get out of it again. And stop sharing. Stop sharing. I'll go back to the grammar. Oh, let me go to the lexicon. I'll go to the lexicon. All right, can you see hutos here?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is from Summers' Greek Grammar. That's his definition, discussion of them. Here's Dana and Mann, Intermediate Greek Grammar, quote from them. And here's A.T. Robertson. He used the word that I want to talk about in just a minute. And then here's Daniel Wallace. He's still alive. He's considered one of the top grammarians right now in the world. He's a Baptist. I think he's from Dallas, Texas area. It's found 1,384 times. Now, let me point out here, he uses the word anaphoric. And I've taken some of these words like anaphoric and didactic, and I've taken those words and I have at the end of this file, I have those words defined so that you won't have to be looking them up and defining them, because it's like I put a little glossary in there for some of these words like that they like to throw around. Okay, is that okay? All you got to do is just cut and paste it and put it, and Control H if you got Microsoft Word, and put this word in there and you'll find it. Okay, let's go to anaphoric here. He kind of defines it from the context here. You look at it. Anaphoric use. The pronoun here refers to one previously mentioned. That's what it means by anaphoric. Something previously mentioned. And so these pronouns take their antecedent precedes them. The antecedent always precedes them, goes before. Whereas your pronouns that are commandments, where you're commanded to do something, or maybe ask a question, those pronouns will take they'll take a postcedent. So we'll have an antecedent and a postcedent. That postcedent will follow them. Okay. Any questions? So again, these take an antecedent. A-N-T-E-S Latin for before. Okay. So this is more definitions of it. Here's another one that's really important. I think it's an important one right here. But let me see. I'll get a kainos, so we'll find it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and put it Control C, Control H, and then I'll go up here and find it. Kainos. There it is. All right. And it's a little bit shorter, but there are two demonstrative pronouns. This one, the kainos, the red. I've got the red for it as well. Okay. And then we can go back to hutos if you like. Do you have questions? Okay. I'm going to go out of it and go back to our file. Okay. All right. Go back. And we'll go back to the Robert's Grammar. All right. Have we still got you still about now? Everyone okay? You still there, fellas?
Yes.
Yeah. Taking it all in.
Let me ask you a question, because I have those the lexicon open, and you sent this one today, and I couldn't find that. So I'll just look on my own, see if I can find it.
Okay, well, it'll be there. It's
yeah. Well, I found utos, but I didn't find all the other things that you had up under it.
Okay. Well, the other ones, it was in that big file. I opened 3 different files.
Oh, okay. I missed the okay.
Mexican and grammar file.
Yeah, you got one on. Okay. I know what you're talking about. So that's at the end, kind of close to the end. I'll go back. Yeah.
3 pages. Okay. So
yeah.
It's a pretty big file.
Okay.
Adding to it too. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so let's look down here. The use of the demonstrative. How is it used? One of the most common uses is it's used as an adjective, because they're really adjectival pronouns, pronominal adjectives. I think that's what he called it up here. right here. Where did he have it here? Yeah. I've got some grammar books that call them pronominal adjectives, okay? All right. They're adjectives that function as pronouns, okay? All right. So one of the most common uses is as an adjective, which it has all the forms of an adjective, and here the noun generally has the article. So, and the demonstrative is in the predicate position. Ikaine, hey, hodos. So the article precedes the noun, not the pronoun, or in this case, it's a pronominal adjective. So we have article before the noun. That's what they mean by predicate position. And ikaine, hey, hodos, and it's that way. And of course, hodos, the os ending kind of fools you. You get in the mode of thinking that's masculine, but in this case, it happens to be neuter, feminine rather. So this is a feminine form of it, and that way, right? Huto.
So what happens to the article there? It just gets swallowed?
The article. That the way. Right.
So it's literally that the way.
Yeah. We just leave the off in English that way.
Okay.
Hutoi, hoi, logoi. And so these, the words, and we leave the off. That's just how English and Greek differ in how they use the article. Okay. Right. Any questions there? All right. So that's these, and of course that's you look at that form. Let's go back up and take a look at it. Hutoi, ikaine right there. Hutoi, is over here. That's plural. That's masculine. Nominative, plural, masculine is what that is. And this one up here was feminine, nominative, feminine, singular. So right here we have a singular noun and a singular feminine, nominative, singular, feminine. See, this is nominative, that's nominative case. I can tell by the article. And so that's nominative case. And that's feminine, I can tell by the article. So that's feminine. So gender, number, and case agree with what it's referring to. Right? So hutoi, hoi, logoi. And again, this is nominative plural, and that's nominative plural, and they're masculine. Okay? They agree in number, gender, and case. That's what they're referring to here. Right? Any questions? It can be used as an emphatic personal pronoun as well. This one, hutos, this one, or just as he. Right? Hate, she, that could also be this one. And tuto, it. Right? All right. Let's try it here in John 1:2. Hutos. So why don't you guys want to read that for me? I'm tired of reading. Benjamin, can you read it for us? Take a stab at it.
Sure.
Good practice for you guys.
Yeah. Hutos en arche pros ton theon.
That's good. Hutos. And that's what again? What we already learned it is. See, if you had your table printed out, you could look at it and see and kind of get used to it. He, or this one. Hain, we just had that.
Was being.
That's from Amy, was it? It's a being verb. Was being. He was being when?
NRK, beginning is RK, and being locative in the beginning.
Yeah. Now, where'd you get the be out of there?
Yeah, it's implied.
Okay. Here in this case, some words, if it's one of a kind, if it's unique, it doesn't need the article to be definite. How many beginnings are there for anything?
One.
There's only one beginning for anything. So RK, beginning, never has the article because there's only one beginning for any one thing. So in the beginning, and the word "the" should be inserted without even being in italics, actually. This one was being in the beginning. Pros, ton, theon. What?
With God.
And that's the word God, isn't it? Now, the article being with the word God, the article, in my experience, I've never found it, and I think I found some grammar books that claim this is what I'm saying is true, that the article with theos, variation of theos, theon in this case, is always the true God, the only God, right? And God is not, theos is not a name, okay? It's a name of a set of characteristics, not a name of a person. And we make it a name in English, and that's okay. I don't have any objection to it. And I'll always capitalize it going with the English usage. But it's really a name or designation of a set of characteristics that one has. So this one was being in the beginning with the deity or the God or with God. Okay. Any question there? All right. That's right out of John 1, 2. So we've actually translated a verse, or pretty much a verse. Okay. All right. Now we get to the reflexive pronouns. And reflexive pronouns are, and we have them in English, myself, yourself, himself, herself, and we can have it in plural, them, yourselves, themselves, and so forth. Myself, ourselves would be plural.
Sorry, brother, one question if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
So why not use autos instead of utos there in that example?
He could have, but he chose to refer back to verse 1, the one he was talking about in verse 1 with that word.
I see.
So it links back to the one in verse 1 very, very definitely. And
So if he had used autos, what would it refer to? The same sentence instead of a previous one?
you'd have to go by context, but it's still would be it still would be probably referring to Jesus, the Word.
Word. Yeah.
Was the Word was with God, and the Word was being God. He, this one was in the beginning with God. All right, and so forth. Verse 2. So the difference is hutos, notice the rough reading, is emphatic, more so than autos or autu. Autos would be our form, okay? That makes sense?
Okay, a little bit.
So it's more emphatic, right? Any other questions? Right, reflexive, myself is a good reflexive pronoun in English. Or ourselves, say. We could be talking as a group. We could say ourselves. We ourselves are going to do this, such and such. A reflexive are pronouns that denote an action directed back upon the subject or actor. They're used in all cases except the nominative. It doesn't have a nominative case form, okay? And so I have a table for them over in that file that I sent you today. And it's the object of a verb. So it's the object of a verb. The pronoun referring the action back to the subject. And here is lego, and that's I speak, amaton. And so this is I speak what? I tell myself. I speak to myself. So that's a soliloquy, isn't it? Okay. All right. Any question? I speak, I tell myself. I tell myself.
Quick question, if you don't mind, another one.
That's in the Bible at all, I tell myself, but he's just illustrating the use of it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so how do you know when to use the middle voice, which seems to have a similar purpose, versus the reflexive?
The Greeks had, they had a difference in them, and they overlapped to a great extent because your reflexive pronoun will cover a lot of the same ground as the middle voice. And so that's a good question as to when they would use them. The pronoun, of course, would by its nature only be reflexive, whereas the middle voice could be reflexive, but it could also indicate that he's doing something to himself or for himself. He could be self-serving, say, in that sense.
Do you ever use the middle voice in addition to a reflexive pronoun to accompany it?
I think there may be a few instances that they're joined together. And that would be very emphatic if they did.
I see.
And so that usage of the pronoun with a verb that has its own pronoun would make it emphatic. So they could use them together for emphasis. Right? There's a difference between a reflexive and intensive pronoun. Right here, I tell myself, that's reflexive. Autos, lego, atone. I myself tell him. I tell him, say I myself. And so autos and lego both have the same subject. Okay. The ending is really a pronoun, and then this is another pronoun, and so it's emphatic or intensive. It intensifies it. I myself tell him. They're formed from the forms of autos. So once we've learned autos, we have basically the forms of them. We'll look at it in just a minute. Notice the endings here. That's basically a form of autos, accusative ending. That's the accusative form of it. All right. And so you take these endings, and it doesn't have a nominative ending, a form. So there's no nominative case form of it. Genitive, ablative, dative, instrument, locative, and accusative. No vocative forms either. Okay. All right. But the atu, that's basically from autos, same form as autos. And auto, and again, we've had that in autone, see. So you're not learning anything new once you see that pattern. Ate, saute, ate, attain. And notice there is this is masculine, feminine, there's no neuter. How would something neuter reflect back upon itself or of itself? So we don't have a neuter form there in this case, right? We seem to have it over here, but we don't have it in the singular. The one declension serves as the plural for all three reflexives. Right? We have the second person form, and again, we have the ending -to and so forth, and the sigma epsilon on the beginning. And then they just take the forms of autos and sigma epsilon, okay? And this one declension serves as the plural for all three reflexive in the New Testament. Only two forms, no neuter. Okay. All right. Third person. So we have reflexive pronouns. First person, I, myself. You, second person, yourself. And he, himself, herself, or itself. So we do have a neuter form of it. Okay. And so there we have that. And your plural form would be this over here. All three reflexive. First, second, and third person all have the same form. Okay. And again, all you do is on third person, you have a epsilon with a rough breathing, and you take the forms of autos. All right. That's all you do with it. And that's it. You have those pronouns as well. Once you learn autos, its forms, you have the forms of these three. Just got to remember the preceding letters that go with them. That's all you got to learn. Are there questions? Let's try to finish up to right here, and then we'll end the class for tonight. Bobby, can you read this for us?
I'll try. Hupar autoi ego agio agizon zo imatan.
Hooper, auton, ego,
Hagi
hagiadzo,
hagiazo. Okay.
hematon. Okay. Hooper and hyper, our English word hyper comes from this. Okay. So it's in behalf of them, I sanctify. Who do I sanctify? Hematon.
Myself.
Up here. Hematon.
Myself.
Myself. First person. Okay. All right. And I'll do this in much quick, and then we'll be. I'll tell you, this is always, all times. Tus, tokus. You almost have to spit to say this word. That's the poor, and that's really not just poor. That's a person that's so poor he's virtually a beggar. Okay. Tokus. Gete met, and it's abbreviated. This is like an apostrophe. Eaton. So you get auton and a rough epsilon with a rough breathing. Always, at all times, the poor, and you're almost spitting when you say the word, we have with us, ourselves, with yourselves, actually. You all have with yourselves, you all have the poor. I went at the, you all have. I translate it as we, it's you. Okay? With yourselves. And so right here, there is your This is third person, but a tone that I've got highlighted. That fits up here, right here. And it's genitive, ablative, all three genders. So let's see which gender we think it is. And it's the poor. So let's look, we can look at the article and figure out what gender this is up here. That's masculine, isn't it? See that? You can tell by your article, it's masculine. All right, any question? All right. So at all times, the poor, and I'm going to spit almost when I say the word, tokus, a pie and a ta together, you almost are spitting when you say it. And I think it might have come in almost like the word may have come out of the people's attitude toward those people, the poor people. Sometimes people that are they're real highbrow, they look down on the poor. Right? Any questions? All right. We're going to come back next week and we'll do the translation, and then we'll come back and start it with section 120 when we finish our translation. Right? Any questions?
Just one. Is that Met Elton? Is that supposed to be that way, or?
Because we have the rule here.
Yeah.
And so the alpha gets dropped off and it does this over here. I'm going to go over and I'm going to go over and show you the rule, okay? All right, share. And let's go to Greek lexicon and grammar notes. I'll find it.
Let's see here.
I really apologize, y'all. I got to get going a little early tonight.
Okay, it's all right.
Here it is. Just go ahead and leave. It's in this. It's a proper preposition.
Right there, I see it. Yeah.
There. It's
I thought maybe that's what it might be. I'm sorry. I just some other reason.
And that's if this preposition is in a vowel, it is abbreviated. The next word either begins with if the next word begins with vowel or diphthong. And that's what we have here.
Yeah. What? How would you know that it's a ta or a theta?
Well, you'd have to go back to your rules in the section before lesson 1 that we went to.
Okay. Okay.
How words fit together. Okay.
Yeah. All right. No problem.
All right.
He said, well, let's see. Genitive and accusative.
I'll go back to that.
If, let's see.
Oh, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong file.
Let me see.
I'll get back in. All right.
Well, okay.
There it is.
It's in the genitive. So does that mean it'd be met? That what that's saying there?
Yeah, this is genitive or accusative. It takes either genitive or accusative cases.
Would met be the accusative? I mean, genitive, and meth would be the accusative.
Those would just go with whatever
Okay.
or diphthongs were and the word following it.
Okay.
And there'd be certain rules for that. Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too.
All right.